It's time to look at Smoked Oyster 2109-40 by Benjamin Moore. Now, normally, I enjoy oysters fresh, with a bit of lemon and a bit of Tabasco, but I'll take what I can get. This is more than just a food item. This is a beautiful deep taupe paint color that can be used as a paint, but also an exterior arbor coat stain, and even a semi-transparent one. You can't say that about every color out there, so that's a little fun fact to start this video. I'm going to tell you all about this versatile paint color, how to use it, some paint color pairings for it, and also some trim options if you need to paint your baseboards, your doors, your frames, your crown molding, anything that's wood and not drywall. And if you're just as ready as me, then click that like button for me because it really helps me and the team a lot. Smoked oyster is a very interesting mix of colors all put together. Taupe in general can be a variety of things. At its core, however, it is a combination of brown and gray typically, and also in a lot of cases, a traditional taupe is at least a mid-tone, if not darker. So you're not going to find a lot of off-white taupes or anything like that. Usually there's some depth that's implied. So speaking of darkness, why don't we start there? This color has an LRV, or a light reflectance value, just under 23. What this means is it reflects 23% of the light that hits it. And that's not a lot because black paint is usually around a 3 or a 4 LRV. And then all the way up at like 90, 92, you have your bright white paints. So the lower an LRV is, the darker the color will appear because less light is being bounced off of it. And because of this low LRV, I would say that smoked oyster really just barely misses mid-tone territory. It's a dark color, it feels pretty deep, but also not overly dark. It's not going to feel like a chocolate brown or an off black or a charcoal gray. There's enough to it where you'll notice its coloration. I find that the purple undertone in a lot of these neutrals, taupe included, often come from red. Red is sort of the base of it all, and it's that combination of red and gray that sort of creates that purple aesthetic. But one thing I will say about red as a whole is it's huge now. It's really popular, both red undertone colors and just red based colors in general, like coral and even magenta. They're really popping off in the design scene. And speaking of magenta, I'm going to leave my Pantone color of the year video in the cards up top because it just shows you that people are really loving these bright, passionate, vibrant red based colors these days. But let's get back to taupe here because I think that it's very versatile in general. Not necessarily smoked oyster, we'll get to that in a second, but you can kind of see it as a darker version of grayish, which is kind of a beige and gray combination instead of a brown and gray combination. The only difference is because taupe is darker, it does have more depth to it traditionally. And although smoked oyster is fairly neutral because it is part of that family, the undertones can clash with certain colors if you're not careful. The violet aspect in it can add complexity, both in a good way and a not so good way. At the same time, it makes it more interesting, but requires a bit more care, especially with other neutrals, because those are undertones that maybe you don't notice at first until it's next to smoked oyster, and then you're like, whoa, it's purple and green now. What's going on? Just another reminder, test your colors, test them out before you paint your walls, please. I'm begging you. As a whole, I do assess this color as a great secondary option. I don't know why I felt my beard there, but kind of like my beard, which is secondary to my overall face, smoked oyster can be secondary in your color palette in your home. So it can be used in different rooms, not necessarily a hallway color, like not the main crux of your whole palette, but it could be if you really want to lean into a darker color. Maybe you have a ton of light coming in and you can afford that. That's up to you. But it will be easier to implement in closed off spaces of the home that maybe have a door in front of them. Time to talk about some color pairings. And to celebrate free color advice on YouTube, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, because we're a growing online community all about painting and decorating, and it's all thanks to you. 6 videos a week for free. Pretty cool, right? So the first one I want to talk about is American White 2112-70. Oh, say, can you see? I used to think the lyrics were Jose, can you see? As if someone's just asking their friend Jose, like, hey, can you see okay, man? But American White, you know what? I like this color. And as a Canadian, I also don't mind being referred to as American because it's North America, baby. We're all American, right? Anyway, this color, it's clean, it's cool, it's fresh, and it's more of a light gray than a white with an LRV of 74, maybe 75, around there. It really cuts through the brown warmth in smoked oyster really well. So it's not trying to blend in, it's standing out like a true patriot. Jokes aside, this is a really clean light color for a more streamlined, stripped down aesthetic, and it will feel like a soft white in practicality. Don't be afraid to use it on your walls. Sometimes people are a little weary about going too bright, but this one has that toned down feel to it, which means it'll be fine. Next up is October Sky 2162-70. This color looks very familiar to a color called Lychee by Benjamin Moore AF-40. Guess why? Because they're exactly the same. And here I thought that all Affinity AF colors were brand new. Either way, this reintroduces warmth back into the color palette, but instead of a purple undertone, there's a touch of orange or peach in the background. The color is based on a delicate beige though. It's also a lot lighter than American White because October Sky's LRV is 81.34. That means it's in that top 20% of lightness, so pretty bright. Another great choice to use in the major areas of your home. American White is a clean slate kind of color. October Sky is a more soft off-white. It's not white like a sheet of bright paper. It's more of a French canvas. Third color is Weekend Getaway 473. It's also known as Nature Lover, and I feel this is a warm-leaning mid-tone green. It almost feels like a dusty avocado kind of color. The bit of gray in it makes it just subtle enough to help it feel comfortable, like it's just slightly toned down, even though it has the most prominent color hue here. It is the accent color of the bunch, but don't shy away from covering your walls with it because green is just lovely. I love green. Now time for trim colors. So your trim or your woodwork has all the wood around your walls and all that. So baseboards, doors, frames, casings, all that good stuff. The first color I would recommend is a lot lighter. It's called Alabaster OC129. And it may sound familiar if you like Sherwin-Williams. It's actually quite a bit different from that color of the same name. I would say the Benjamin Moore Alabaster is less beige. Think American White, but 10% lighter. And maybe a touch of pinky peach in the undertones. It'll stand out really nicely against the other colors, including the lighter ones as well. Now, what if you wanted dark trim? Well, I have a rich charcoal brown for you called Taupe 1463. Technically, the darker version of smoked oyster would be something like classic brown, moving down the color chip, but I found it to be a bit too warm, milk chocolatey. Taupe is a bit more shaded, and that's why I gravitated to it a little bit more. It leans closer to dark chocolate rather than milk chocolate, which I'm not really a fan of if we're talking sweets and treats, but color-wise, loving the charcoal brown here on the trim. Here's the palette all together. Let me know what you think, and here's another one right over here for your enjoyment or your entertainment. Okay, that's the last time I'm saying that, I promise.